Today's episode is brought to you by Mazars. SoundCartel. Are you spending too much money on outsourcing sales and marketing? And are you defining yourself by your product or service rather than taking a wider view? Well, one management expert says it's time to become your best CEO. From SoundCartel, I'm Nicole Goodman, and this is Business Essentials Daily. Leela Cosgrove is the founder and CEO of Strategic Anarchy, a coaching and consultancy firm that helps businesses to grow sustainably. She says that if you want to run a business, then sales and marketing is your job. And the biggest mistake she sees is when business owners define themselves simply by their product or service. Leela spoke at the recent Australian Business Forum, Small Biz Week in Melbourne, where she caught up with Jeff Waters. She starts by describing Strategic Anarchy and its goals.
We've been around as Strategic Anarchy since about 2009, so about 13 years. I was kind of in business before that, just under a different name. And so at Strategic Anarchy, our real goal is to support small business owners through their journey. So we do that in a lot of ways. We'll help train around digital marketing, around sales, around management. We really see ourselves as providing a holistic service. That quite often includes helping people with, mindset and management issues, because it's really for us less about what do we do and more about how do we serve a particular marketplace.
So are you a consultancy?
Yeah, so we do have consulting services. We have done-for-you services where we help people build their sales teams. We have people within our community who are digital marketers who'll take that off people's hands. So like I said, we really see ourselves as a holistic community. We do consult, we teach people how to do stuff and really guide them through that strategic journey.
You've obviously got a lot of experience with lots of small businesses. What are common mistakes that are being made or threads that you could advise people about?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that I see is particularly with businesses that are starting out, they see themselves as being about the product they're selling or service, like product or service. And they say, I'm an accounting business or I'm a fintech or I'm whatever. And because of that, they want to abdicate their sales and marketing because to them that's not what they do. It's not their core business, right? So they sort of spend I'm often shocked by the amount of money that small businesses throw at various agencies, just basically anybody who says, yeah, we can take that off your hands. And then they come to us and they're like, I spent $200,000 and I basically can't show any kind of a return from it. And it's like, yeah, look, it's terrible that agencies do that, but I also think there has to be a bit of personal responsibility. The reality is, at the end of the day, if you want to run a business, right, sales and marketing is your job. You need to have that skill set. You don't have to be the world's best salesperson. You don't have to be the world's best marketer. But you do need to have your head around that stuff so that you can at least then hire good people. Because I think this is people are like, I'm just going to hire someone to do that for me. Cool, but how do you know if they're doing a good job? If you've got no idea what it's supposed to look like, it's so hit and miss. So I think our job as CEOs, and I think that's step one, is getting yourself out of the headspace of being, I'm an accountant or I am a tech person who does this thing and starting to see yourself as a CEO. Step one of being a CEO is you've got to kind of have overview on everything that's happening in the business. You've got to understand your financials. Doesn't mean you have to do your own bookkeeping. You got to understand your marketing. Doesn't mean you have to sit there doing your own Facebook ads, right? But you do need to understand each section of the business and how it's delivered.
You're asking people to embrace unfamiliar terrain.
Oh, yeah.
Isn't that a daunting and difficult thing?
Absolutely. It's absolutely terrifying. And I've got to say, most of our clients, when they come to us, are probably at least at year 4 or 5 in business. And they come to us and they'll say, okay, I tried everything else. I'm ready to do it, right? Because they'll often have been familiar with us for a few years. We don't get a lot of clients who are in startup, and not because we couldn't help them, but because they're like, no, I just want to focus on making the best product possible. I get that. And yes, absolutely, you need to have the best product possible. But if you don't understand how to do your marketing, if you don't understand how to make sales in your business, then you don't really have a business. You have a very expensive hobby.
Okay, I'm a small business. What are the first steps I should take to try to achieve this?
Most small business owners particularly are inherently pretty good at selling. And they'll tell you, I'm not really a salesperson, but actually they're pretty good at selling. But the reason they're really good at selling is because they understand the link between the product that they've created and the problem that the audience has, right? Because they created the product for a reason. They're like, here I see this group of people, they have this issue, I'm going to build a service or I'm going to build a product to do that. And so they very naturally sell, right? So I think sales is typically under control, stay in sales, sorry CEOs, stay in sales, right? So I think the very first thing is to really get your head around marketing. So for me, the only real point of marketing, when I say marketing, it's not about brand, it's not about any of those other things, particularly at the start. It's about lead generation. It's about getting those people through the door who know you, who are positively predisposed to buy, and creating a scenario where you have contact details, whether that's email, phone, to be able to start basically pitching them and selling to them.
What are the common pitfalls that you see in the promotional sense?
Yeah. I mean, I'd say the thing is focusing on brand too early. It's one thing for the really large multi-billion-dollar companies to do the kind of advertising that's just about positioning their brand, right? There's a time for that, and brand is relevant at a particular point. But I see that people, they're like, oh, we're just, we're advertising towards people knowing our brand. Okay, great, but where's the money? Because unless, look, if you are funded, if you've got millions of dollars sitting in the bank, by all means, you do you, right? But the people I work with are passionate, bootstrapping entrepreneurs for whom every single cent counts, right? And the $5,000 they're over here putting into quote unquote brand manager, whether it's a logo or honestly, I didn't even have a website until I made about 800 grand. We just used Facebook. It was fine. And because we were calling people, connecting with them, running events, people were in a room with us, they didn't really care about seeing a website. That said, you can get websites done very cheaply these days. But it just everything at the start particularly, or when I say at the start, you should be at break even on your expenses plus say 20 or 30% on top of that, right? 20 to 30% profitability. That's very service-based. Product's going to be a little bit different. But before that point, everything needs to be about sales in the door. Because you just can't afford for it not to be. There comes a time in your business where you can play the long game, but it's not when you're still trying to figure out how you're going to pay the ATO and how you're going to pay your employees, right? You've got to focus on money at the start. It is the very uncomfortable reality of business.
And when I'm ready to take the step into the larger promotional marketing world, how do I take those steps? What should I do?
For me, I think the most powerful way of doing that is partnerships. I mean, it's really funny because I say don't worry about branding and then people go and look at my website and then they're like, but Leela, and I'm like, I know, because, I'm the Australian chapter head for the Dell Women's Entrepreneur Network, so I've got their logo on my website, and I've done presentations for the CSIRO, so I've got their logo. I've done partnerships with Hermes, so they're on my website, and they're like, but look at all the logos you have, and it's like, cool, but that's not where I started. Those partnerships came out of me being good at my job, building a reputation in my marketplace, and then approaching a lot of those companies and saying, hey, I have this audience, which I work with small business owners, and it never occurred to me until recently when one of my partners said it to me. They're like, oh, women in business are such a hard to reach and talk to niche. And I'm like, are we? I'm not sure that that's true. Maybe because you're a corporate, but they're super excited even over fairly small networks. Do you know what I mean? I don't have hundreds of thousands of followers on the internet. Yeah, and my database isn't hundreds of thousands of emails. I'm not a huge company, but I am obviously quite opinionated and loud, and that doesn't hurt. And apparently quite on point at the moment because I'm fairly political and I'm very open that my political affiliation is women, and particularly women entrepreneurs. And so they love that and they're really gravitating towards it. But it's really then about how do you help them get what they want, right? So someone like the Dell Women's Entrepreneur Network, they're talking a multinational corporation, multiple billions of dollars, but they don't necessarily have my insight into what being a female entrepreneur is like and how to speak to women entrepreneurs and how to get more of those people around. So I can bring value in that way, even to companies that are making huge amounts of money more than I ever would. The predominant way that we've grown our business really has been through partnering with people, adding massive value to them and to their marketplace, and then growing off the back of that.
That was Leela Cosgrove, founder and CEO of Strategic Anarchy. This episode of Business Essentials Daily is produced by the team at SoundCartel. Thanks for listening. I'm Nicole Goodman. We'll bring you more Be Daily tomorrow. Follow at BE Daily Podcast across social media and head to bedaily.com.au for more from the Business Essentials Daily podcast. SoundCartel. This episode was brought to you by Mazars. To find out more, visit mazars.com.au. That's mazars.com.au.